A police officer reaches into his own pocket. He pulls out a small bag, and he drops it right next to an innocent man sitting on a public bench. That man had done absolutely nothing wrong. He was not wanted. He was not suspicious. He was just a citizen in a public space, minding his own business. And what came next destroyed his life. A false arrest, a trumped-up charge, and a cover-up that went straight to the top of that department. This officer thought no one was watching. He was wrong. And now this department is staring down a $5 million federal lawsuit that they cannot run from. Stay with me, because what happened next will make your blood boil. Marcus Webb is a 34-year-old father of two from Columbus, Ohio. He works in warehouse logistics, pays his taxes, and has never had so much as a parking ticket in his life. On the afternoon of March 14th, Marcus finished his shift early. He decided to stop at Riverside Commons, a public park, and sit for a while before heading home. That is it. That is the whole story of what he was doing. He was exercising his First and Fourth Amendment rights. His right to simply exist in a public space without being harassed, searched, or detained without cause. Now here is what the law actually says. The Fourth Amendment protects every American from unreasonable searches and seizures. An officer cannot detain you, search you, or arrest you without reasonable suspicion or probable cause. Period. Marcus knew his rights. He had done nothing to give any officer probable cause. There was no reasonable suspicion. There was nothing, except a corrupt officer who had already decided what was going to happen that day. Officer Derek Hollins of the Columbus Division of Police had a history. Complaints filed against him. Excessive force, improper stops, and not one serious consequence from his department. Not one. It is 4:47 in the afternoon. Marcus is sitting on a park bench, phone in hand, watching a video. Officer Hollins pulls up in his cruiser, parks on the curb, and steps out. He walks straight toward Marcus. No radio call. No backup requested. Just one officer and one target he has already chosen. Hollins stops directly in front of Marcus and says, "And I want you to hear this. You got any ID on you?" Marcus looks up and calmly responds, "Am I being detained, officer?" Hollins does not answer. He asks again, "ID, now." Marcus replies, "I have the right to remain in this park. I haven't done anything." Hollins steps closer. "I'm going to need you to stand up." Marcus stands slowly, both hands visible, calm, cooperative. And then Hollins tells him to turn around and put his hands behind his back. Marcus asks, "What is this for? What did I do?" And Hollins says, "Relax. Just a quick pat down." But it is not a pat down. What Hollins does next is not a pat down at all. Hollins reaches toward Marcus's jacket pocket. Then, in one smooth motion, his other hand dips into his own uniform pocket and produces a small clear plastic bag containing a white substance. He holds it up. "What is this?" Hollins says, voice theatrical, like he is performing. "Found this right in your pocket." Marcus spins around. "That is an OT mine. You put that there. That is an OT mine." Hollins ignores him completely. He radios for backup. Within 4 minutes, 2 more cruisers arrive. Marcus is handcuffed on the ground in front of children playing in that park. What Hollins did not know, what he could not have known, is that a man sitting on a bench across the park had his phone out, and he was recording the entire thing. Every single second of it. The footage is clear. Hollins' hand goes to his own pocket first. The bag comes from his pocket, not Marcus's. You can see it, frame by frame. It is undeniable. Marcus Webb was booked that night on possession charges. He spent 11 hours in a jail cell, and for 3 months he faced the very real possibility of prison time for a crime that was entirely manufactured by the man who was supposed to protect him. Internal Affairs was notified within 48 hours of the arrest. They had access to Hollins' body camera. They had access to the bystander footage. And do you know what conclusion they reached? They cleared him. Completely. No discipline. No suspension. Officer Hollins was back on patrol within a week, back on the same streets, looking for his next target. But here is where it gets really disgusting. The department did not just clear Hollins. They went further. The official police report filed by Hollins described Marcus as combative and resisting. Watch the footage. Marcus did not resist for one single second. The report was a lie, written to protect a corrupt officer and destroy an innocent man's credibility before he could fight back. That is not incompetence. That is a cover-up. That is illegal. And that is exactly what the federal lawsuit argues, word for word. Marcus retained civil rights attorney Diana Reeves of the Reeves Constitutional Law Group, and she came out swinging. The federal complaint states that Officer Hollins violated Marcus's rights under the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and 42 U.S.C. 1983, the federal civil rights statute that holds officers and their departments liable for constitutional violations under color of law. The complaint states that the Columbus Division of Police maintained a pattern of ignoring misconduct complaints against Officer Hollins, and that this deliberate indifference directly enabled the framing of Marcus Webb. The lawsuit demands $5 million in compensatory and punitive damages. Attorney Reeves stated publicly that the dollar amount reflects not just what Marcus suffered, but the message that must be sent to every department that thinks it can manufacture evidence and bury it in paperwork. This is what accountability looks like. As of the filing of this script, the case is active in the Southern District of Ohio Federal Court. The criminal charges against Marcus Webb were fully dismissed once the bystander footage reached the prosecutor's office. Officer Hollins has been placed on administrative leave, finally, pending the outcome of a new internal investigation. But this fight is not over, and we are watching every single move this department makes. Here is what this means for you. If you are an American citizen, you have the right to exist in a public space without being targeted, searched, or framed by someone with a badge. That right is real. That right has teeth. And when it is violated, the courts can and will make departments pay if someone is willing to stand up and fight. Marcus Webb stood up. And because one bystander had the courage to keep recording, justice has a real chance of being served. If this story made you angry, good. Use that anger. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell. Because we are not going to stop exposing every corrupt officer and every department that thinks the law does not apply to them. We will be here. Every case. Every cover-up. Every single dollar that accountability demands. They planted the evidence, but they could not plant the truth.